We always start everything with spiritual mind treatment, so I invite you to take a breath. Let it out. And please continue to breathe, as we know that there is only one infinite, absolute presence of the divine in and through all things, but greater than the concept of thing. It is the life that lives, the love that loves, the light that shines. It is everywhere, every when, and everyone. And I know that each and every one of us is created out of. We are a manifestation of, an individualization of that infinite, absolute presence of the divine. It is our nature. It is our essence. We cannot screw it up. We cannot lose it. All that we are is spirit in form as us. So just breathe that in a little bit. We are beings of light. We are beings of love. And all is well. And so since we are that point of spirit, just like the wave is to the ocean, we have all of the qualities of the divine is us now. And so we affirm for ourselves that we are healthy and happy in every way. We are rich and we prosper abundantly in this life. We are love and we see only that God presence in everyone in our life, and it is reflected back to us. And we live this life in joy. That is the truth of us. It is our nature. It is who we are. And then we release this with gratitude. Wow, we get to be us. We get to live on planet Earth. We get to be God in form as us. This is fantastic. And so we let it go. And we know that we have set spiritual law in motion. And the only thing that can happen is the demonstration, the outpicturing, the effect of this word. And together we say, and so it is. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Welcome. We've got the heat cranked up a little bit, so if you get warm, let me know. What did you say, Terry? It feels good. Feels good, yes. It was a little cold before. I was a little surprised when I was getting ready for class that we only have 3 more classes. We have this class, we have next week, and we have the week after, so really we only have 2 more weeks and 3 more classes. So I want to make sure that we finish up the textbook consciously. It seems like we're not that far along, but we're as far along as I was going to go. So all things in perfect order. But if you have any questions or want to get clear about something, this is a good time to do it, to make sure that we're looking at all of the really great information that's available to us. I also want to give you an update on the recording process. I finished the recording a month or 2 ago, and since then it's been a lot of editing. We have 2 options of receiving these recordings that we're looking at. One is burning them on CDs, and it's going to take 8, maybe 10 CDs to get it all on. And another one is a stick. So we're looking at compressing them all down to MP3 files and putting them on a stick. And then if you want to, if you've got a car that you can put a USB drive in, you can listen to it that way. They'll be in files, lesson 1, lesson 2. Or if you want to put them in your computer, you can do it that way. And my intro to it says, this is our gift to you. Please feel free to make copies and share it, but you cannot market it and make a profit on my work. That the very fact that I've done that gives me legal copyright, so I claim that copyright, Barbara Waterhouse. You can give it away to the world if you want, by all means do, but you can't package it and sell it. So if you want to put it in your computer and then put it in somebody else's computer and somebody else's computer, that's fine with me. And I'm just curious, because I'm in the middle of all of this, which one would you prefer? Who would prefer CDs? Eva, Mandy, Jill, April, Michaela, Rick, Cheryl, and Susan. And Valerie.
Never mind about the CD.
Okay. And who would prefer a stick?
What is a stick?
A stick is a travel drive that you put in your car or
Thumb
computer.
drive.
Do you have a USB port in your new car?
A USB?
A little square hole in the dash somewhere? I bet you do. It's a brand new car. You'd put the stick in and it would just start to play.
Really?
Yes. So how many people are interested in the stick?
Flash drive, it's called.
It's like 2 to 1. So we'll probably do both of them. The thing about the CDs is that it cuts off when the CD is full. So we try to make it cut off at a conscious place, but the stick is just lesson 1, you know, lesson 2, that kind of thing. So it is my sincere intention, and I'm putting many, many hours of work into this, to have this to you before the last night of class or on the last night of class as my Christmas present to you. Yes,
I've
Susan?
never used a stick in the car, so if you're playing it and you need to take it out, do you know, does it stop there like an old
Yes.
tape? Or
I
you
have no
Yes,
idea.
it does.
It does.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can restart it where you took it out. Okay.
I don't know.
Burn a CD.
If you just turn
And
your
you
car
can burn
on
a
and off,
CD
it
from a
stops like
stick.
that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can burn a
still be on
CD
the
from the
website,
thumb
right?
drive.
And it'll be on the website, so those of you who don't want a stick or CDs, you just download it into your computer, transfer it to your iPad, whatever, MP3 player, plug that into your car, or
And it's on your Bluetooth.
however that works, I don't know. I just know that this is something that I started 10 years ago and am just now finishing, so. And Sunday afternoon, I finished lesson 3. And once you get it burned to a CD, there's nothing that the computer can do to it. So I lost 30 minutes somewhere going from upstairs to downstairs here, and I don't know what happened to it, so that's got to be recreated. And I just wanted to let you know, because when we started the class, I made a commitment that I was going to take all of that and finish it and have it available, and I'm just using you as motivation, because really I've had this dream of having the Science of Mind textbook on audio files for a decade, to be able to go out to the world, because people can get that stuff in the middle of nowhere. People who don't read can hear it. People who don't speak English well can hear it without having to download a PDF file and try to read it. They just listen to it. So it's something that's really exciting to me, and it'll be done in 2 weeks. So I know, yes, Robert?
Barbara, tell us about the exam. Will it be mostly essay?
There is no exam.
He knows that.
No, but my practitioner 1 class does have an exam every 10 weeks. And we just had our first exam on Tuesday. And the way that we do it is, okay, here's your exam. Now, let's read number 1 and talk about it. Because the purpose of education is so that everyone knows the material, not to try to trick people into saying, you're wrong, you didn't get that one right, and then they have a mental block and they go away and feel poorly about themselves. So it took us over 2 hours to go through all the questions, but everybody was really clear by the time we were done. And I know that, Michael, you don't teach calculus that way, but it's a whole different thing.
Sometimes I do.
Do you? Good, 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 good. And I wanted to give Eva a chance to ask your question that you called me about. If you grab me at the break, I'll usually bring your question up at the second half of class. And if you call me during the week, I'll ask you to ask the question in class, because it's a question for the class, not just for me. So you're on, Eva. Eva, did you have a question?
I hope I can remember what I asked you, you know, in detail, but it's like I understand this. I've got it. I've got the concept. You know, it's clear, and I know it. I believe it. I everything it, and but somehow it's like, you know, I know it. I believe it, but it's like not coming together in me. Like I can't quite get to the point where I can get into that that frequency or consciousness of manifestation.
Is it the consciousness of manifestation or the consciousness of connection?
I think I'm connected.
Okay, I thought when you called me, you were saying you wanted to have that experience of connection with the divine that I was talking about last week.
Oh, I have the experience. I mean, my life is wonderful, and I'm deliriously happy every day. And you know,
So what is it that you're looking to create?
I seem to continue this thing about lack, and even though when I get into the fear and everything, then you know when I start doing the affirmations, it's like the fear is stronger than the power of the affirmations.
The fear is stronger than the power that you are putting into the affirmations. Because fear is your own creation. So don't delude yourself into thinking that which you've created is stronger than that which you are. So what you want to do is you want to give some oomph to it. You want to give some more clarity. One of the things that I have people do, remember I said the control of conditions, we were not going to teach the regular class that I usually teach. We're going to teach all this wooey-wooey, let's transcend and let's not worry about the relative, let's move up to the absolute. But had I been teaching you about the control of conditions from that specific first year level, I would have had you do affirmations 1,000 times a day, so that there is no time for you to think about anything else. You can't hold two thoughts at once. You can't go, oh my God, I don't have enough, and I have more than enough. I always have more than enough. I always have more than enough. I always have more than enough. You're going to be homeless. I'm always safe. I'm always safe. I'm always safe. I'm always safe. You can't hold those. You can jump back and forth, but you can't hold two thoughts at the same time, and you want all of your energy going into the thoughts of prosperity and abundance. Ernest said in this chapter about prosperity, he said that somewhere that poverty is a limited belief. At any rate, he said poverty is a limited belief. It's a limited belief that you hold in mind and consciousness. So what we have to do is blast that limited belief out. One of the things that I always teach in classes is the idea of tithing. And I teach the idea of tithing to scare people. Those people who already tithe, they're all, oh yeah, I stand on the clarity of that consciousness and that truth. People who don't have enough money are actively participating in not having enough money. And what happens when it's time to let go of that money is some fear comes up and they go, oh no, I can't let go of that money. I'm going to bow down to and embrace my fear that I don't have enough, and then I will create not having enough instead of standing up to it and saying, not only do I have enough, but I have more than enough. And so if you want to create prosperity in your life, learning how to practice the spiritual art of tithing is an excellent way to do it because it works in two ways. One is to set spiritual law in motion. Whatever you give out, it's going to come back. And if you're holding on to fear, because you say, oh, the fear and all that, you're on intimate terms with that fear. It is the fear and all that. It's on first name basis. It lives in your house with you and all of that. So when that fear comes up, then you can look directly at it and say, I will not let you rule me anymore. I will not be ruled by fear. And that's a wonderful way to handle breaking through the fear. So then you're setting spiritual law in motion and you don't have the fear to drag your creation down. And I've seen so many people have just huge transformations by starting that practice. It's like, I don't want to talk to that person because I'm afraid of them. Well, what do you need to do?
Talk to that person.
You need to talk to that person. You absolutely need to talk to that person. I don't want to get in the water because I'm afraid I'll drown. Well, what do you need to do?
Get in the water.
You You need to get in the water. You do. I can't let go of any of my money because I'm afraid I won't have enough. Well, in my world, the thing that needs to be done is the money needs to be let go of. And what happens with most people, it's like, oh yeah, I understand the talking to, I understand the getting in the water, but not when it comes to money. All the rules change when it comes to money because that's my money. I don't want to let go of that money. And as long as you don't want to let go of that money, the reason you don't want to let go of that money is fear, and then you create the idea on the outside that says you don't have enough money, and then you go, wow, I'm glad I didn't let go of that money, because wow, I wouldn't have had enough. But we created that. We created that to support our limited belief, and Ernest says all poverty is the result of a limited belief. So I would ask you, do you tithe?
I do, but not as much as I should.
A tithe is 10%.
Yeah.
So if you're cutting back on it, you're cutting back because you're afraid. And anytime you're afraid, you're going to create the outpicturing of that fear. And when you suck it up and say, I'd rather go hungry than live under fear anymore, you burst through the fear, you set spiritual law in motion, and all of a sudden, you get back, multiplied abundantly, that which you gave away. You know, I would rather be laughed at than be afraid of speaking in front of people anymore. How many people are in the Wednesday night Own Your Voice class? Yeah. So you can either be afraid to get up in front of people, or you can say the worst thing that can happen is the earth's going to open up and swallow me up and I'll never be heard from again, or people will laugh at me, or whatever, or whatever our stories are. And so when we say, I would rather be swallowed, I would rather be laughed at, I would rather cry, by standing up and finding my voice, then we burst through that fear. And it's the same thing with money. It's the same thing with relationships. You know, tell the truth and tell it quickly. How many people have been challenged with that one? Yes. Oh my God. I've got to claim my life. So I'm going to tell the truth. This is what's going on with me. Ask for what I want when I want it. Oh, I can't ask for anything. When I was a kid, if I would ask for something, I'd get backhanded. It would be terrible. There'd be wailing and gnashing of teeth. I'm so afraid that's going to happen. I refuse to be ruled by those old fears anymore. I'm going to ask for what I want. And then you bust through the fear. And then the emotion that is going with your affirmation that I'm going to insist on the universe showing up and that there is more than enough, that I have a voice, that I can talk to people, that I can say what's going on with me. I'm going to insist on living in that kind of a world. You get all these emotions going along with that thought because they're not all bound up in fear anymore, and you have incredible power with your demonstrations. And so people do these kinds of things, and all of a sudden, wow, these amazing things happen. Well, of course they did. We're creating our reality. What's amazing to me is that any of us can go against the flow of the universe and be sick, be poor, be miserable, be afraid. That takes so much more energy than going with the flow. Quan?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the tithing or coming to this church or both, but like I don't isolate as much, you know, on all levels, psychically and stuff like that. And, you know, my concepts of separation and concepts and beliefs of separation, they just kind of have fallen away, and I feel connected.
Wonderful.
I feel connected to people.
Wonderful. That's called a healing. But you don't get the healing and get to be afraid at the same time. You can't have it both ways. So you can't hold on to limited beliefs which say, oh, I'm not going to go the whole 10%. That's crazy. Only crazy people do that. You can't hold back on that and expect to demonstrate that which is yours. But the good news is, Eva, is you got all this good backed up, waiting for you to get that door open. And the way you get the door open open is to go through your fear. So you've got all this good piled up just waiting to pour into your life as soon as you can get the door open. And you get the door open by going through your fear. I'll say it all night long. This is the way it works. You got all this good piled up waiting for you to get your door open to it, and you get the door open to it by going through your fear. The only reason that we feel separated or limited, poor, sick, disconnected, unloved, not capable, is because we are afraid. And then we give all of this power to our fear. It's just fear. You made that fear. You sculpted it, and you painted it, and you breathed life into it. You made it. You can just as easily take a hammer and smash it. It's just fear. And the way that I've found is most effective to handle fear is just to go through it, to do it anyway. Because I would rather be poor, I would rather be laughed at, I would rather die than live a life ruled by fear. I will not do it. So if there's anything that comes up, it's like, okay, here we go. Because I'm not going to live that other life. And my experience has always been that amazing good comes from it. Wonderful things show up through that. Did that answer you?
Yeah, but I must admit that I'm very, very good at manifestation. But
Except for money.
But it's lack,
What is lack?
that I manifest lack.
Oh, well that's just because you focus on it. That's just because you focus on it. You
I know.
welcome it in, yeah.
No, it's
Yeah,
just,
so train your thought process to focus on having more than enough. One way is to go around, just look at where you have more than enough. Oh, I have more than enough air. Is this great? I mean, I haven't seen the movie Mars, but I imagine that was one of the issues for it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have more. Martian? Was that it?
Martian.
I have more than enough air. Oh my gosh, there's more than enough light. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, feel it. There's more than enough heat. Gosh, I have more than enough shoes. I've got shoes on my feet. I have more than enough whatever. I have more than enough water to drink. Being on a 4-day vision quest with no food and no water, I am always grateful for water. 4 days with no water. Wow. The water just keeps on coming out of the faucet. It is so cool. Focus on what's more than enough. Train yourself to focus on that because you're just energizing the lack. You're good at it. You already know how to manifest. You're just manifesting what you don't want. That's neurotic. Yeah. So just stop it. Manifest what you do want. Is anybody else in that same position? Anybody else having that same kind of thing? Drew? Tom? Drew? Oh my goodness, Michaela's going out, give me some money.
It goes back to, for me, Carlos Castaneda, conquer your giants, defy them.
Yes.
You know, and your giants could be pretty tall, but the fear, that's intimate. That's emotion. That is like right there. It's not like, oh, down the road at the neighbor. No, it's right in your face,
Right.
in your core. And it's like, yes, it's like maybe like, I know when you go to sleep, you're always going to dream. It's going to be weird stuff in your dream. Well, you're always going to have that, you know, little voice and fear and ego and blah, blah, blah. But it's learning to push it out, like you said. And every day, I mean, sometimes every minute of the day, that you, to push that fear out of the way. And sometimes it's up to a giant. But when you finally face it, it's not that big.
Right, right. That's the talk I did on David and Goliath. You have that one stone of truth. Hold on, Michaela, you're fourth down the road. You have that one stone of truth, and if you fling it with find out what our bank stuff was online. Just love it, just love it. And if it took 3 days before you could open it up, just love your checkbook, love your debit card, love your ATM machine. Go out there, I love your ATM machine. Whatever it takes for you to infuse love into that situation. Good. Cheryl.
I just can't get out of the lack thing. I find myself in it all the time. That's what I'm really trying to
You choose not to get out of the lack thing. It's somebody else is not thinking your thoughts, you are.
pass.
So what could you do? How does that look when you're in it? You just go round and round and round? So you gotta start thinking something else, just like with Eva. Come up with an affirmation. I always have more than enough. I'm not dead yet. I've been through worse things than this. I always have more than enough. 1. Do it 1,000 times so that you just don't have any time to think about the lack. And you'll stop the habit of it. The neurons in your brain actually grow together when you think the same thought over and over and over again. And you and Eva both, and probably other people in the room, have neurons that have grown together, and you just start thinking about how, oh my God, there's not enough, and I'm not going to have enough, and I've got, it's Christmas, and what am I going to do, and blah, blah, blah. When you think about something else, there's that time where it's just free-floating. So sometimes people feel like everything's fallen out from underneath them. They don't know who they are anymore. They don't know what's going on. People call me sometimes really angry about this stage, and I'll go, great. You know, you're not enmeshed in your lack and limitation and your poverty thinking anymore, and you haven't recreated new neurons that grow together. So when you think something positively over and over and over again, and I mean 1,000 times a day, you go to Dick's and get a clicker and count it off, you force your brain to grow into a different series of synaptic transmissions so that you end up with a different thought, so that when something comes in out of the blue, instead of going into doom and gloom and all is lost, you can go to something wonderful's happening. There's a pony in here somewhere. I know that only good comes to me. I know that this is blessed. Anytime you get a letter from the bank or something like that, don't open it right away. Don't, oh, I'm so worried. Don't do that. Set it down. Love it. Smudge it, put it through some Sai Baba incense, chant over it, sing over it, do whatever it is you need to do to change the energy, because you can actually change the letters on that paper. But if all you do is go, oh, wow, something came from the bank, what terrible news is here now, then that's what you'll get. Good, good, good. Yes, Troy.
It seems to me that lack is connected to small self, which is connected to fear and anxiety. That's a little world, a very small, nasty little world. And abundance is connected to unity and seeing the true connection. And that explodes that little world, it opens it up. And it's just, I think that if there's a horse and a cart here, I think it's got to be just to get into the spiritual aspect and the oneness, the unity, and let that be your first possum, and then abundance is surely to follow, I would think.
Right, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We did a whole class on moving into the absolute, and not everybody can do that. So if you can't do it and you're going to go down the rabbit hole of fear and panic anyway, you might as well have some tools to pull yourself out, catch a breather, and move out into a greater reality. But you're right, if you could just open up to love and life and the presence of the divine, everything would show up. Remember I told the story about the monk who they said, oh, well, let's throw you out into the woods and see what happens? And when they came back for him, he had a palace and people and all of that, because it's all about consciousness. Michaela?
When you do something like, is it possible not to have an impact and not manifest anything?
No, if you think something, it'll show up. If you think something over and over and over again, it'll show up. That's why it's so important for you to pay attention to what it is you're thinking about. And if you've got something you don't like, you thought it into form. So think about something that you want. I saw on Facebook today, make a list of what makes you happy, make a list of what you do, compare the two lists.
Mhm.
There's some great wisdom in that. So look at your life, and if there are things that you don't like, think about maybe how you got them there and what you want to think about and focus on to get something different. And welcome to the rest of the class. I mean, you're right there with everybody else, Michaela. Judith.
Thank you. I've been having a terrible time, honestly, for months, getting clear and being able to do affirmations and focus, and I find myself all over the place. And it's like I forget, you know, it's like I forget what I want to be doing here. And and as a result, I'm not getting many results. And I don't quite know how to open that focus so that I can channel it.
Do you do spiritual practice every morning? Well, that's it. You got to start. I always find it better to start it after the coffee has finished perking.
So
You know, but
when you say spiritual practice in terms of, I guess I'm not clear exactly what that might.
My spiritual practice includes meditation. It includes a meeting with my chief spiritual
Right.
officer. It includes gratitude lists. And it includes 5-step spiritual mind treatment. It includes discussion of what a great day it is, what a great life I have, how wonderful everything is, how just amazing things are turning out. I'm bringing it into form. I'm giving voice, I'm giving life to what I want. And that's why you never see me before 10. I mean, and I get up early, but it's going to take me a while to do all of that and get my day settled to where I want to step into it and live it.
Okay.
You know, people who get up and they're late and the alarm's beeping and the news report is on and they run out the door, what are they running into? Susan and then Betty.
While I've been waiting to speak, I shifted the way I'm going to present it. I've come a long way in my progress in fear of body stuff. I've spoken about it before. And it used to really just take me over and devastate me. I'm more in touch with and concepts and principle it's never so far away from me now that I have to throw out a rope and pull myself up. I remember so simply Bob said, just remember, I'm God, wait a minute here. You know, nothing is that impossible. It's a struggle yet. It is a struggle. And then immediately I say, but it's less of a struggle.
Right.
So, and I'm kinder to myself in the process. Like, I hate that about myself. Oh, I wish it would go away, and I can't stand it. It's been so long. And I recover from that trail as well. So I'm doing well with that. The 5 points of power. Tell the truth and tell it faster. It's been fun to use.
Good. Susan's unleashed.
It has been fun. And there's a hesitation, not even a hesitation, there's just a block, and then, again, almost immediate recovery. Like, no, because that would mean I'm afraid, and I'm afraid of the outcome, and I'm afraid of not being all of me. And I recently had something to say to somebody, and the feedback that I got was, what were the 2 words? They were intrigued and totally impressed with me.
They're wise.
Because I was courageous. To somebody else that may not have seemed very courageous. But just saying what I wanted one day it won't even be courageous, it'll just be.
right? And then what happens to your energy flow if you're not holding on to this thing and that thing and this thing, and you don't have all of that restriction, you're wide open.
I am flying, and I look to share it with other people. Again, somebody else, it may be a way of their life, but to me, it's such a big deal.
Good for you.
And I share it with other people who also share back to me that, yeah, that is great. That is great.
Good. Who else had their hand up? Oh, yes, Ben.
I was just gonna add that a lot of the times the struggle that I have is the feeling of worthiness. And I think that might be a struggle that some other people have too, is that, you know, it's hanging on to that knowledge that I am God and I am worthy of abundance, because that's one of the lessons that is, you know, I've struggled from my childhood to let go of, is being worthy and that, you know, I deserve to have abundance. So I think that's a commonality too, because so much of us were raised in that mentality that, you know, there's a negativity with abundance.
Right, those, what is it, dirty money, and the mistranslation of the Bible that Jesus said money is the root of all evil. Whether or not the Bible is real at all, that's not what he said in the idea of the Bible being the word of God or Jesus. He said the love of money is the root of all evil. So the bowing down to it, the raising it above. Money's just a tool. But if you don't have money, what are you bowing down to? You're bowing down to money. Oh, I can't do that, I don't have any money. Oh, I'm worried, I can't sleep, I may run out of money. Oh my gosh, I'm not safe, I may not have enough money. Then you're bowing down to money. You fabricated it into the lack of money, but you're still bowing down to it by saying there's not enough money. Whereas Jesus had a treasurer. What do you need if you have a treasurer?
Money.
Treasure. Yes. In a seamless garment, he wandered around and always had places to sleep, people to feed him, plenty of food. He always had, in his choices, he lived an abundant life. Yes, Michaela?
And, by the way, there is one thing that I have to say. Why is the manifestation happen? How does it happen?
It happens through law, that we live in a universe of time and space, and that the molecules of creation are half of what is going on. That the other half of it is light. That light shows up as form, and then it goes back to light, and back to form. And that's literally how the area around you comes to be. But it happens so fast that no one can see it. And the interesting thing that they have found is that when you think, you affect it coming back from light to form. And they have done all kinds of experiments where they have random number generators and they sit there and they think positive, you know, pluses, and it comes out more pluses. Or they think minuses, 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 comes out more minuses. They've had random number generators that have been put away, the results of it, and nobody gets the information for 6 months, and they sit there and they go positives, 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 and what came out 6 months ago is more positive. You know, there's no difference between the observer and the observed. You, my dear, are a powerful, creative, spiritual being, and you are creating your world every last second by what you think about, by what you make up as a story in your head, by what you believe, and you can make it any way you want. Any way you want. The stories that we tell ourselves, it only means what we make it mean, the things we give into, the things that we challenge, the amount of time we're willing to invest in ourselves, that connection with the divine. The best thing that I've experienced in self-worth work are the first 2 steps of treatment. To sit there and hang out in this idea that says, It's a spiritual universe of light and love. That is it, folks. That's all that's going on here, and that is what we are. We are beings of light. We are beings of love. And when we open up to that, nothing else can stick. So those old ideas from childhood that say you're not worthy, you don't deserve it, you shouldn't have it, you're bad, you've got to hide and pretend, they just get washed away. You know, I think that's what the Christians had with the whole idea of baptism, that they would wash you clean so that you could be the spiritual truth that you are. And I do want to share this with you. What page was that? On page 224 in Lesson 5, The Perfect Whole, 2 paragraphs from the bottom, Ernest says, if we could stand aside and let the one perfect life flow through us, we could not help healing people. This is the highest form of healing. And whether or not we're doing it for ourselves, which I think is what meditation is all about, that's what Troy was saying, that when you open up to that greater, that big you instead of the little you, then that one perfect life flows through you, out from you, you open up to it, however you want to language it, it heals. And it heals self-worth, it heals experiences of lack and limitation, it heals physicalness. I mean, we are going to heal this creek bank, and it may look like heavy equipment and cranes and all kinds of stuff, but there's a healing going on because we can stand there and let the one pure, perfect life flow into our realization of what the bank of that creek is, the same way that we can do it with a broken bone or a diagnosis or a financial issue. You stand in that clarity of consciousness. And one of the conversations that's been going on forever in this teaching is whether or not we heal. Oh, Barbara, there's nothing to heal. There's only truth to be revealed. Ernest says that over and over and over again. You're not healing something. You're not taking something that's broken and fixing it. You're not taking something that's sick and making it well. You're just unearthing that original perfect state that was always there. So I find it fascinating that Ernest says if we could stand aside and let the one perfect life flow through us, we could not help healing people. And sometimes I watch these faith healers on TV and I just want to do that. Remember we talked about Willard Fuller, the tooth healer. You know, how does that work? That someone is so clear that they can touch you and something happens. And how different is that really from a practitioner that you go to and they are so clear that they touch you with their consciousness and something happens. How is that? So I love this. I posted it on Facebook just to all of my other minister friends who always say, how could you have had Willard Fuller come to your center? I'll take healings any way they come. I'll take it any way you want to. Essential oils, that's fine. Vegan, what is it? When you don't have the wheat. Gluten-free. I know, Chuck Camper is going to cook for our party on Sunday after the celebration, our annual open house, the time when you can come and look through our stuff. So Chuck Camper's cooking, and he's saying, oh, we have to have some vegan, gluten-free stuff, and John and I are going, why? But however the healing shows up for people, I don't care. I want you to be healthy. I want you to prosper. I want you to be happy. I want your life to be going great. So however we do that, John and I spend hours in the morning doing spiritual mind treatment, clearing up our own consciousness so we don't bring any, muck and mire into this energy here, letting our lives really go the way they are supposed to go and bringing that highest level of energy that we can into the mix. However it works is fine with me. If you go get a chiropractic adjustment, if you get a massage, if you go have surgery, some people say, well, I didn't want to tell you I was having surgery. Please tell me. Please tell me so we can go pray you up and pray you in. Morgan.
Okay, so my question is then about cause and effect, because when you're talking about like essential oils or a vegan diet, aren't you dealing with the effect part and not
You're dealing with secondary causation,
Yes.
but I don't care.
Really?
Sure, if you take a pill and the pill makes you feel better, would I rob you of that?
But I think you'd be saying it'll come back, because I'm not dealing with the causation part of it, the higher part of it.
You're constantly growing, you're constantly healing, you're constantly releasing the limitation and the negativity, you're constantly rising up to embrace the greater you. So, I don't know, that sounded kind of threatening. Well, it'll come back if you don't, whatever. I don't know.
Who said
She says I do, but I don't remember it.
Well, I guess this is how I interpreted it, dealing with the laws of causation and effect, and if you deal with the effect part of it, it's most likely to come back because you're not dealing with the causation part of it.
Right, but if you believe that the pill is going to make you better, and the pill makes you better, is that a bad thing?
I wouldn't think so.
That's the standard placebo effect. It's been used for, I think, ever since World War I, they started using placebos when they didn't have any morphine for the guys.
But then, am I supposed to be really going, am I happy? Like, should I be concentrating less on the pill and more about my state of mind of being happy?
Sure. Concentrate on being happy and watch how everything heals. Hey, how about Jimmy Carter?
Yeah.
No. Stage 4 melanoma cancer metastasized to the brain. Till last week. Not a cancer cell in his body.
Yeah, that's great.
Not a cancer cell in his body. He looks fantastic. Now he did, it's not chemotherapy. We finally have a handle on cancer. It's an immune stimulant.
Right.
An immune system stimulant to get the body to do what it's supposed to do. And what suppresses your immune system? Guess.
Fear.
No, come on.
Fear.
Stress, fear.
Small rocks, bunnies.
The little you suppresses your immune system. Whenever you're anxious, whenever you're afraid, whenever you're worried, whenever you're negative, they are actually writing prescriptions for people with cancer to go into forgiveness therapy. Because when you hold on to resentments, it knocks your immune system out of whack, and then you get sick. Everybody's got cancer.
And also to watch comedies too.
Sure. Norman
Yeah, laughing yourself well.
Laughed his way out of cancer
Right.
when everybody told me he was just going to go home to die. He said, I don't think so, and I might as well laugh on my way out, and he was completely cured. But when you hold on to these small things, that's why I think it's so important to bust through your fear. When you hold on to these small things that say, oh, it's bigger than me, then the normal cancer cells in your body, cancer is not something to be afraid of. The normal cancer cells in your body get gobbled up, or when you hold on to those things, they go crazy. And there's nothing to hold them back. There's nothing to gobble them up. So they go crazy and they grow into all kinds of stuff. But as soon as your immune system goes, oh, I am the immune system of God. And what do you think Jimmy Carter had going on more than immune system therapy?
He was a positive
His
He
faith.
was a positive thinking person, and what else? He had so much prayer going on. And I don't care if they were doing a 5-step spiritual mind treatment, a rosary, or just saying, oh dear God, please help our Jimmy Carter today. I don't care. It was energy going into him. And that energy, which connects us with the divine, just like you were saying, has healing to it. It has prosperity to it. It has manifestation to it. So when we can let go of the little thing that says, oh no, I'm going to die, then we can open up to that ability to live. I'm so proud of Jimmy Carter. He's, what is he, 91?
Yeah.
91 years old.
And you know, he continued his work with Habitat for
He was out there
Humanity,
building
houses throughout this whole thing.
Right.
So not only was he bringing it in, but he was giving it out.
Right, he was giving it out.
Here, and I thought it was just the VATinos.
I was going to say that's But that was so important because he was giving it out. He wasn't giving it in his fear that says, oh, I've got to conserve my energy, I've got to rest, I've got to take naps. He was going, no, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm healthy. I'm going to pick up a hammer and go drive a nail and build a house for someone. I'm not dead yet, so I'm going to live. I'm
You've
very
never
proud of
wavered.
him, very proud of him. Jimmy Cotta.
Jimmy Cotta.
Okay. My book is actually falling apart. But in this lesson, we have some interesting things. On page 218, on the third paragraph, he says, man having his existence in the unitary whole, which is indivisible, is compelled to accept the fact that his life is God or spirit. But to say that man is God, which is equivalent to saying that any part equals the whole, is to contradict logic and reason and limit the limitless idea. So I didn't want to leave you with that because Ernest was going on limited information. He couldn't really, and he says that a number of times. He says, in order for oneness to exist, the oneness must exist in its totality at every point simultaneously. And then he goes to say, well, you're not God. You can't be all of God. You may be a part of God, but you can't be all of God. And you can really see his grappling with this idea, and he loved science and quantum physics and hung out with the teachers in Los Angeles and all of that. He loved it, but he had not really had enough opportunity to get the concept that how can you be all of God? Because he said that would limit a limitless idea. So he was looking at you as a limited part of the divine. And if you are a limited part of the divine, then there is no way that the limited can be the limitless. Of course not. The limitless contains the limited. But that's not the truth. That's not how it really works. And one of the ways that I wanted to explain that to you is with this idea. Star Wars is coming out. Oh, Star Wars. And what was it?
Thank you.
Oh, Obi-Wan, you are our only hope. Do you remember in the first one when R2-D2, the little robot, shot something out onto the floor, and there's Princess Leia going, Obi-Wan, you're our only hope. What was that?
A hologram.
It was a hologram.
Hologram.
Now, a hologram is fascinating because a hologram contains the entire thing in every point, kind of like we say spirit. Spirit is contained at every point in its totality, at every point simultaneously. And we go, oh, I can't imagine that, that must not be right. Must not be right. That means that somehow you have all of everything in you. And consciously that's absurd. We can never wrap our heads around that, so it must not be right. Well, that's limited thinking. So let's expand our idea a little bit. If you take a hologram, and I've heard that they look like that. They look like that. They're just squiggly lines everywhere. Squiggly, 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 squiggly. And you shine a special light through it. You can go all the way around that image of Princess Leia and see the front and the back and the sides. You can see her little buns. So one on one side, one on the other. You've got the whole shebang there. And then if you take the negative of the hologram and cut it in half, and shine the light, you got Princess Leia, and you can walk all the way around her and see the whole thing. And if you cut it in half, you can see the whole thing. And cut it in half, 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 until you get a little teeny, teeny, tiny piece of the negative, and you still can go around and see Princess Leia. So when they discovered holograms, what came out were concepts like, we live in a holographic universe. There are books called The Holographic Universe. There was a book that came out called Our Brain is a Hologram. And what happened? Well, if you have a stroke and you've damaged the right side of your brain, then you're not going to have, or if you damage the left side of your brain, you're going to lose your ability to have speech and mobility. And then all of a sudden, people who had left brain damage started to talk again. And what they found out is that the right side of the brain kicked in to compensate for the damage on the left side of the brain, letting people to start exploring that the brain is not as cut and dry as we thought it was, that maybe all of that information is stored in every part of the brain, and that the brain is a hologram. Fascinating. So people say, well, how can I have within me all that God is? I'm just a little me. No. Even if you look like a little piece of the negative, you have all that there is at the point of view. And then, because we are not one piece, we're not separated, we're really, this is a space-time continuum. We're just in one universal layer that happens to have form. Here we are on this point. That's not us. Remember the V? We're like that. And so we're connected with all that is going out into infinity. Just because you look at your physical form, that is not who you are. You are so much bigger than your body or your name or your job or your stuff or your experiences. That is a teeny, teeny, tiny focal point that puts you into time and space. But when you drop this body, you're going to go in some other dimension, some other level, some other experience. You're not going to stop just because your body stopped. I love what Ernest said in this book. He said, if the intelligence was in the body, then after you're dead, the body would still be alive. He said that dead bodies would be able to contract diseases. We would have epidemics in the cemeteries.
Zombies.
Zombie apocalypse. So it is the intelligence that we are. It is this part of us, you know, and we've got, just on planet Earth, we've got 7.5 billion of us. So we're just all intermixed and connect. Doesn't that look like the hologram?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have a little tiny piece, and people think that that's all there is. That is not all there is. There's so much more to us. And so when Ernest says things like that, I want to bring them out and overt them. That's not true. That's him in 1926 still trying to wrap his head around how we can be all of God. But Troward, before this book, was able to say, in order for spirit to be one, it must exist in its totality at every point simultaneously. Period, end of story. Otherwise, you take the infinite and you cut it in half. And once you've cut the infinite in half, or even taken a little tiny piece out of it, then you have destroyed the oneness. And science has proven that if it is not one, if it's not a unified field, if there's not only one thing going on, then literally time and space would not hold together, and we would not be able to be here. So the fact that we are here scientifically has proven that there is only one. And then you bring into the whole thing about the effect of the observer on the observed, and bringing forth from the unmanifest in the random number generators, whether you want more pluses or minuses, and it doesn't have any limitation in time, so you're dealing out of the realm of time and space, bringing into time and space through your focus on positives or negatives. They collapse into form, and you have something very similar to what we've been teaching for 100 years and more. That we are creating our experience, that everything is spirit, that that is what we are, whether we can understand it or not, that all of us is spirit, and all of spirit is us. Whether we can grasp it or not, it doesn't matter, it doesn't limit it. That's why Eva is so powerful at manifesting lack. She can manifest anything she wants. It's just what we focus upon, what we choose. And I'm going to change that. And now Eva is very powerful in manifesting abundance. Yay. It's all our choice how we're going to do it. And Ernest says that when we open and allow the flow of the one life to move through us fully and completely, then there's nothing that cannot be healed. And everything is healed. Everything in our life, everything around us. Troy.
Ernest also, when he talks about God, he uses the analogy of the ocean as the one, or the, and then he says, but a drop or a bucket is not the ocean. It has the characteristics of the ocean, but it's not the ocean. And I thought, hold on to yourself.
Oh no, that's the same conversation going through his head.
Yeah, exactly.
What he's saying is once you take the drop or the bucket out of the ocean, then you have limited the drop or the bucket, but you can't take the drop out of the ocean. You cannot be separated from spirit.
There is no separation.
There is no separation, and you'll see him as the years went by, getting clearer and clearer on this. But this was his I think his third book that he wrote, and he was still grappling, because in that book he'll say all of spirit is you, and then he'll go, no, you're the drop. And the drop is, it's very egotistical for the drop to think it's the ocean. It has nothing to do with ego. It has to do with how we see it. As long as the drop is in the ocean, and we can never be separated from spirit, so we are always in the ocean, as long as the drop is in the ocean, you cannot separate the drop from the ocean. All of the ocean is in the drop. Now, if you scoop it out, that's a different story, but we are not scoopable. We are not. We cannot be separated from spirit. Michaela, and then we're going to take a break.
Well, if there's a drop in the ocean, how can we not be, like, someone can't be floating around in space and time and not be in spirit realm?
You're right, you have to be there.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. There you go. Let's take a break. Come in. I love this lesson, and it's a very short lesson compared to the other ones, because we're talking about things that are mystical, that are outside of the realm of things that are easy to talk about. So this is about the perfect whole, and what he talks about is that it's not on the outside, it's on the inside. The answer to every question is within you. The solution to every problem is within you. Heaven is within you. He even takes it to the point of raising the dead is within you. So don't look at anything that is outside of you, and if it appears to be outside of you, you took it from within you and put it outside. So if there is any sense of any kind of limitation in your life, you put it there. And if you put it there, you can change it, you can shift it, you can put something else there. Because we live in a reflective and vibrational universe. It reflects back to us whatever it is that is going on within us. And what's going on within us? Everything. Everything is going on within us. Everything is going on inside of us. It's a vibrational universe because it is vibrating. It is not solid. It is made up of waves and quarks and particles, and the illusion is that this is all solid and stable. It is far from that. It is constantly changing. And so if we want our lives to change into something else, we take it from within us and put it on the outside. He says, the thing that we look with is the thing that we have been looking for. And I think an easier way to say that is that which you are looking for, you are looking with, and you are looking at. So if you are looking for freedom, well, you are looking for freedom from freedom. There's not a freedom on the outside and no freedom on the inside. That would be a universe that was missing something. It would be the entire universe of freedom, except at the point of Barbara, there's no freedom inside of her. So there's a place where something doesn't exist. Now remember back to the beginning of the class, what happens to the absolute if you've got a hole in it?
Not absolutely.
It's not absolute. How can you have a oneness if it's all one except for this little hole where there's no freedom in Barbara? Then you have a universe that will not hang together. Then you have all of time and space and life as we know it is gone. So if I am looking for freedom on the outside, I have to find the freedom that already exists. And that's an important piece. It's not that I have to make freedom within me. It's not that I have to shove freedom inside so that I can pull it out and hand it over to my life and have it appear in time and space. It is that I need to find the freedom that already is. And where is that freedom? If it's not showing up in my reflection of life here in my time-space continuum, if it's not showing up here, which is why I'm looking for freedom to begin with, because I don't see it in my life, it's already here. And so what I want to do is to bring that freedom that already is forth into my life. And the way that I do that is to realize that it's already here. Even if it hasn't reflected in time and space, I make sure that it's there vibrationally. We live in a vibrational and reflective universe. So vibrationally it has to be there, and I don't have to make it. I don't have to create it. Remember we had the conversation about how we used to be Center for Creative Living, and every time we get to the part in the textbook where Ernest says we don't create, man never creates. He discovers and uses. Well, what's up with that, Barbara? You're Center for Creative Living. You use the teachings of Ernest Holmes, and Ernest says you never create. So we don't have to have that conversation anymore. Now we are Center for Spiritual Living. But we don't have to create it. We don't have to make it. All we have to do is find it inside of ourselves. And if we are looking for it, we already have it. You can't look for something that you don't already have. Otherwise, you've got a spot that you're looking for something, it doesn't exist. There's a hole in the universe, we're not one anymore, everything falls apart. Yes, Joe?
If we have a desire for something, is that because part of us knows that it exists, and we're saying, well, where is it?
Yes. And the more that there's tension around that desire, I think the closer it is.
So part of us knows that it exists. I'm free, freedom is who I am. And then another part of me doesn't see it.
Right.
And there's that.
The tension between them is the creative process. And for me, the bigger the tension, before I really go to, I've got it, the closer it is. So when things feel like they're just not happening, I know they're close. Otherwise, they wouldn't be bouncing around in my consciousness, causing that other part of me to go, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I want it, I want it, I want it. You can only want it because it's there. That which you are looking for, you are looking with, you are looking at. Drew.
Scientifically, the closer particles get, the more vibrationally excited they become. The
Really?
same,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
and they vibrate, then they,
Yeah, then they're all good. Because they're close and they're excited. It is the creative process. So this lesson is all about, it's called a perfect whole. That whatever's on the outside is on the inside. And whatever's on the inside is on the outside. So there's nothing that happens to you out of the blue. You don't catch anything from someone else. No one can take anything away from you. No one can give you anything. Yes, Michaela?
So there's no such thing as a coincidence.
You're absolutely correct. The child is brilliant.
Yeah.
There is no coincidence. There are no victims. I love the phrase, there are no victims, only volunteers. We are all stepping up into our lives individually and collectively. Nothing ever happens to us because there's no outside for it to happen from. Everything always goes from the inside out, but because we live in a time-space continuum, it sure looks like it's happening from the outside, but for it to happen from the outside, we must have first put it into our lives by first being vibrationally at that place, and then having time and space reflect that vibration into form. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So whenever you feel, because I know you're all meditating and doing your spiritual practice in the morning, whenever you feel that love, do you know that love? Whenever you feel that love, it came from inside of you. Whenever you feel that, and I'll get a little wooey-wooey on you, whenever you feel that grace, it comes from inside of you. And very often people get mixed up and they think that it's coming from outside of them. But it can't be on the outside unless you first put it there. That's why people go, oh, I love this person. Not really. You love, and that person is here. And that's really what's going on. You're loving in the presence of this person. So when people come to me and they go, oh, they left me, I'll never feel that love again. Well, that was your love. That wasn't their love, so they can't take it. When you're angry, no one made you angry. You were angry around that person. They didn't make you angry. That was your anger. It's your love. It's your physical state. It's your way of seeing the world. You know, it only means what you make it means. The stories that we create in our head, we plant in our life, and then we reap the harvest of that planting. So we can take anything and turn it in either the world's greatest blessing or the world's greatest tragedy. And I mean, people can take things that I would say are very, very small and turn them into a tragedy. And people can live with a lot of things that people would not call blessings and feel like they are deeply blessed. So which life would you rather have? The one with all the outer trappings and the person has made themselves miserable? Or the one that doesn't have much on the outer trappings at all, but the person is joyous? I'd rather have the joyous life. And we know that if you don't have the joy, even though you have the outer trappings, you're going to lose those. And that if you do have joy, greater and greater things will come into your experience. Because we know that whatever it is we focus upon, we grow in our lives. That's why gratitude is such a good idea, because we literally plant that into our lives and then reap the harvest of that, because we put it in there. That's why there's no such thing as luck. There's no such thing as coincidences. There's none of that stuff. It's all from the inner to the outer, and the outer to the inner. It's like the circle of life, and the Lion King sings. You know, it's the perfect whole. What else does he have in this? I didn't have any paper when I went through getting ready for class, so I just wrote in my book.
I found the diagram very confusing.
You found the diagram confusing? I love this diagram.
Well, when you went down for God, the Father, and
Yeah, I don't read any of that.
It's like
just read the top. Okay. This is the circle that does not have the V. This is the whole, the perfect whole. So he says it's the triune unity, which would be in his world spirit, soul, and body. For us, it'd be spirit, law, and body. The indivisible whole. You can't cut it up. You can't take a piece of a negative. You're not a piece of a negative. You're not a drop of the ocean. It is a perfect whole. It is the whole. And then he says some wonderful things that I love. Within which is all of its parts. It is the whole which contains all of the parts. It is the absolute within which is the relative. The absolute is bigger than the relative. The absolute contains the relative. It is the uncreated within which is the created. So, remember John talked about pantheism and panentheism? If you say that God is the table and God is the trees and the sky, then that is just that which has been created. And what Ernest says is that it's the uncreated that has within it that which is created, but the uncreated is bigger than that which is created. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So God is everything, but God is more than everything. And how does that work? I don't know. I don't know, but I know that thing is a limited idea, and that which is unlimited can only contain the thing. It cannot be contained by the thing. Thing is not bigger than that which made thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm trying to make it in simple English. But some of this is really beautiful. The changeless within which is all change.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
Page 217. The changeless within which is all change. So how can you say that spirit is unchanging when I see change all around me? Because spirit is not limited to this plane of perception. It contains it, but it's not limited to it. Well, here we have the circle. And we would have cut it up into thirds and put the descent of the creation of spirit into form, but instead we're just going to have, this is the unchanging, and this is change. Change doesn't dominate the changeless, right? So of course there's change, but that's only a little tiny part of it. There's this giant thing that never changes. That's why we want to go from the relative, which is all the changes in life, to the absolute, which is that which never changes. I don't care how mad somebody is, love is the only reality. I don't care what's happening with somebody's finances. Prosperity is all that there is. I don't care what the doctor says you have, health is an eternal truth. I don't care if your friend dropped their body and everybody says they're dead, life is eternal. The changeless holds that which changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's all the perfect whole. The formless, within which is all form. The limitless, within which is all space. And if you have space, you have to have time. The timeless, within which is all time. So what's all this now, this eternal now, and yet the clock goes click, click, click. It's the timeless that holds time. It's the limitless that holds the limitations of space. And this is where some people have trouble with this teaching, because if all you can see in life is the relative, that which is created, things changing, form, space, time. If that's all you see in life, then you have trouble stepping back to get the idea that there's something bigger than space and time and form and that which is created. There's something that, yes, it is that, but Barbara, you said that spirit was this table. Yes, it is, but spirit is not limited to that table. Just because that's all you see doesn't mean that you take the infinite and shrink it down to a table. And that's why this teaching is very appealing to people who are highly intuitive, because that's an intuitive leap, to look around and say, I see it and I'll deal with it. I'll put gas in my car and go grocery shopping and deal with the relative aspect of life, but this is not it. I can feel this greater reality. I can feel this presence of spirit. I can feel other dimensions right here in this room. Don't you know this room is packed with beings? It's packed with beings. But I can't see it. But I know that they're here. I can feel them. I can intuit them. I can imagine this idea of an infinite, absolute, creative something that has created all of time and space out of itself, but like in the Declaration of Principles, it is not absorbed by its creation. That means that the creation didn't make itself bigger than that which created it. The creator is always bigger than the creation. That's why when you have something in your life that you have created, you as the creator are bigger. You are the boss of your creations. You put them there. You don't like them? Pull them out, move them, put something else in there. The creator is always bigger than the creation. And so I can intuit and sense this greater reality. And when I start to go there, it's like, well, it's not only greater than this time-space continuum, but I feel like there's all kinds of time-space continuums going on right here and right now, right here. Like there are other us's right here. And then it starts to get kind of wooey-wooey, and people who are very focused on the relative aspect of life, they say, you're all crazy, I'm out of here. And that's why I think that things like Christianity hold such a large appeal, because they have things you can touch. Well, we don't give you stuff you can touch. You can't grab your crucifix. We don't give you communion. You're not drinking the blood. We don't do that. We say there is a reality going on that supersedes and transcends this physical reality. It is the higher truth of you. And that if you can let go of the idea of whatever limitation or frustration may be going on in your life and move into that higher truth, then you will automatically change the experience. Transcendence transmutes. It does not rectify. You're not fixing it. You're not working it out. You're not buying a used car here with the universe. You're transcending, rising up into the level of the absolute and watching everything shift to where things work out that were never going to work out. Money shows up out of the blue. The death sentence of the diagnosis changes to where they can't find a cancer cell in your entire body. It transmutes it. It changes the essence and the nature of that which you thought was solid into something else. Transcendence transmutes. It doesn't rectify. That was Sri Aurobindo, and that is a very intuitive, Hinduism is a very intuitive philosophy. I mean, they do the whole yoga thing, but that's not it. It's all about the oneness and the connectedness. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Tom?
Well, I never had trouble becoming one with the oneness and timelessness. Then my question was, well, why do I come back into my ego? And it was the Hindu thing that kind of solved that for me. It was because, you know, I'll give my power away to you so we can play a game and, you know, beat the boredom.
And what?
Beat the boredom, be entertained.
Beat the boredom. Right, right. And I think that being on planet Earth is cool.
Yeah, it's
You know,
entertaining.
I don't know in other dimensions, do you get taste? I like taste. I like sight, colors. I like sound. I like touch. And so if we're on a more subtle physical plane that's more energetic than solid, do we only get these experiences on planet Earth? Well, let's enjoy them. So if chocolate is one of the bennies of being in physical form, let's enjoy it. Let's not deny ourselves. That's why Ernest wrote that poem in the beginning of the book where it says, come sit where the sunbeams dance in the light. The table is spread for you. All is yours. You know, life has set the table for you. Life has set it all out for you. Your job is to partake of it, to enjoy it, to experience it. So, the universal within which is the individual, the one person within whom are all people. That's interesting. We are all people, but really, are we all people or are we one? Are we one person with many faces? It's a very intuitive teaching. You've got to kind of grok, step back.
Robert Heinlein was on to something.
Really. Source and center of all life, power, and action, truth, love, mind, spirit, the ever and the all. As soon as he gets all biblical, just forget it. That's the time that he was working. The country was very biblically oriented. That was in the vernacular. That's the way people spoke, and that was his personal raising. That he was raised with all of that, so that's just the way he thought. If you don't like it, just let it go, translate it, doesn't matter.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I was trying to figure it out, and it didn't make sense.
Jane.
So if you're angry at something, and you feel yourself getting squashed by the anger, there's a way you can move into another plane where everything is larger than the,
Sure, you can do that.
than the anger that...
You can do that, and one of the ways that you might want to do that is, I created this anger. That which I created cannot kill me, cannot squash me. I'm bigger than the anger. One of the things is I have a body, but I'm not my body. I have emotions, but I'm not my emotions. I have a mind, but I'm not my mind. You know, I have a job, but I'm not my job. Let's make it a little more clear. I have a gender, but I'm not my gender. You know, people still come in here and go, hey, little lady, is the pastor in? I have a gender, but I'm not my gender. Jane, you have anger, but you're not your anger.
So therefore the creator is always bigger than
The creator is always bigger than the creation, and I created it, so I can create something else. I can create happiness and peace and joy and love.
even though someone else says...
There is no someone else. Yeah.
Somebody's actions have been made you angry.
No one makes you angry. You've got free-floating anger. Some innocent person walks by, and you take that anger and you throw it at them, and then you have an excuse to get angry. Nobody made you angry. You don't need to stay angry. You can just go experience something else. Tony Robbins calls it doing. I'm doing anger.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing anger. How you doing? I'm doing frustration. I'm doing anger. I'm doing joy. I'm doing bliss. I'm doing happiness. You're doing it. You chose it. You're doing it. You're running a number on yourself. Drew.
When you were saying that before, I was reminded of a cut that we did. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah. You're not a body with a soul. You're a soul with a body. Yeah. And when the body stops, the soul will go on and perhaps create many more bodies. Ernest says we have a body within a body within a body to infinity. I don't know. It's just his way of saying there is that within you that is infinite. And if there is that within us that is infinite, then we have to be the entire infinity at the point of us now, which he has trouble with. And I think that if he was alive today, he would have worked out a lot of this stuff. But he wants to see it as a limited idea, as if I am only my body. You know, translating that to a thimble full of water from the ocean. When it's removed from the ocean, it no longer is the ocean, but we're never removed. And in his words, we have a body within a body within a body throughout infinity. Isn't that cool?
That's the hologram.
Yeah. Can you feel how you're using more of your intuition to grasp this? Good, good. One of my favorite quotes of this is on the top of page 223. He says, "Such is the power of clear thought, that it penetrates things. It removes obstructions. The reason being that there is nothing but consciousness, nothing but mind." And so what he says is that if you want to remove an obstruction, you use the power of clear thought. Everything is resolved in mind. If you go out there and start shoveling rocks into the creek bank, Because you're dealing at the level of effect, it's never gonna happen. You resolve it in the realm of mind. You know that it's done. And then through spiritual law, all of these pieces come together in concert and harmony in ways that we've never even imagined to come together and to materialize, to come into physical form, to manifest as that completed healing, that completed health and wholeness, the same way that the physical body does, the same way that organs can regenerate just like that, the same way that the impossible is possible. You resolve it in mind and then allow the spiritual law of the universe to manifest in form. Don't go chasing your money. Don't go chasing your money. Sit still and embrace that idea. Open up to that idea that you always have more than enough, and then watch the money find you. That doesn't mean you don't get up and go to work. People have said, oh, I charged up $40,000 on my credit card and quit my job because you told me to be prosperous. That's not prosperity. You create it in mind, and then it will find you. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time getting 2 and 3 jobs, chasing after money, manifesting a lot of fear, and you could have spent that time more wisely resolving it in mind, raising the energy, having a vibrational frequency that is more in tune with prosperity and abundance, and watching that reflect back to you in physical form. And that's true whether it's money or physical health. People who get up in the morning and tell themselves that they're sick, that's what they're creating. They're just creating the sickness. Susan.
I took something off of Facebook. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Does that mesh with this, or the soul always knows what to do to heal itself, but maybe it doesn't need healing because it is perfect health?
Right, the soul is never sick.
Right.
So I think what that post is trying to say is there is an aspect of you that knows exactly what to do to manifest health and wholeness in your life. You need to shut up and stop complaining and criticizing and trying to focus on the limitation, trying to tell everybody when you're figuring it out. This is the reconciled part. You're not transcending because you're trying to figure it out. I've got this problem, I've got this disease, I need to figure out something, and all you're doing is putting energy into the idea that you've got disease. So I'm sure that that's what they meant to say. If they tune into this class, they will understand.
I love it, I love it.
He talks about the Christ, that it's not the eternal begatting their only son, its only son. It is the only son is continually being begotten. So Meister Eckhart said the eternal is forever begatting the only begotten. And it's begatting it in you and in me right now. So instead of there just being one, there's an eternal process of creation of that Christ energy, that Christ consciousness. And rather than having the idea of the Christ be stuck to a guy named Jesus, who may or may not have lived 2,000 years ago, instead of having that going on, there's an idea that there's an energy of spiritual birth that is constantly happening, and that's happening in each and every one of us. So that Christ consciousness, that sonship, is an experience of oneness. And this lesson is very, very mystical. We talked about that last week, that it's very mystical. And he goes on to say that each person partakes of the Christ nature to the degree that the Christ is revealed to them, or that they open up to it. So however much you open up to the idea that you are a manifestation of spirit, that you are a spiritual being, that's how much spiritual beingness you get to experience. Not how much you have, but how much you get to experience. You know, the water pressure in the lines is really big. And if I open up the faucet just a trickle, that's all we're going to get. That's not the amount of water that there is. That's how much we've opened up to it. If we open it up really big, if they go up and open up the hydrant that we paid for out on the corner there, if they open up that hydrant, there will be a huge amount of water come out. The water was always there. Your spirituality, your divinity in this section, your Christ sonship, he calls it. That's always there. Your connection with Spirit is always there. It's just how much are you going to open up to it? How much are you going to let come through you? And then you take that and you plant it in your life. And then it grows forth into fruition and you get to pick the harvest. And people go, wow, what a great life you have. You're so lucky. Oh, good things just happened to you. No, I put that there. I did that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Jane.
Well, if you got this mood of anger,
Work it, Jane.
the thing is, maybe the first step would be to accept what has happened, and instead of struggling against it, and then maybe that is to enable you to.
What do you mean accept what has happened? What does that mean? Then to give reality to your made up story that somebody did something that made you angry? No, that's a lie. That's a lie that you are telling yourself. Nobody ever made you angry. Now you can accept the fact that you are doing anger, that you've created an experience so that you can be angry, and you're just going to go ahead and be angry. So if you're going to do that, I would encourage you to go for it. Yell, scream, kick, pound, let it out. Because you obviously had some anger that was waiting for somebody to walk by, and then you took it and threw it at them and made up a story that they made you angry. That's not what happened. So let it out. Be angry. You want to be angry? Be angry. You may not have any idea what you're angry about. You don't have to have a reason. You want to be angry? Go for it. Yell, scream, jump up and down. I found that very satisfactory. If you're going to be angry, don't be timid about it. Go ahead and get really angry. Because you had some anger, then you targeted some innocent person walking down the street, and now you're in this whole thing with them. Take your anger back and then just let it go. And next time around, you may not have nearly as much anger to throw at someone.
Well, I think that the thing of it is, if you struggle with the anger,
Sure, so let it out. But it doesn't have anything to do with that person. That person didn't make you angry.
Well, actually, that person did.
No, no. You told yourself that that person made you angry. You were already angry.
No, that's.
Yeah, you really were. You were already angry. So if you're going around with anger, just go ahead and yell and scream and get it out.
Well, yeah, that's, it wouldn't work because with the anger that I have, it was caused by somebody else.
That was a long time ago, Jane. That anger's over. You have anger that you've pinned on that somebody else. It's okay to be angry. Don't be afraid of your emotions.
I know I can be angry, but I'm just thinking that it's not basically, if I just accept that I'm angry, then I can move to a higher,
Sure, so accept that you're angry.
yeah.
But go ahead and try to get some of that out, because it's kind of stuffed down in your belly there.
Well, it was okay until
Till it started to come up.
until.
Because you're hanging out in some bliss and some love and some light, and it's washing some of that old stuff out. This is true for everybody. So if some of the fear comes up, some of the anger comes up, like Jane says, you don't have to fight it. don't make yourself wrong for it. Either transcend it immediately, if that doesn't work, let it out. Let it out and move on. It's old anger. It came to pass and not to stay. You're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Don't build a condo. Because like Louise Hay says, you take that and you put it in your shoulder. I know you've had shoulder issues. I think you had surgery on one shoulder. You put it in your, what?
I didn't have surgery on my shoulder.
Where'd you have surgery on?
My knee.
So you put it in your knees. You know, it keeps you from moving forward in life. You take that anger and you put it somewhere in your body. People who have had body work, give body work, you know, you can get someplace on somebody's body and all of a sudden all this stuff starts coming up because they put that stuff in that point. So if you're going around holding all this anger all the time, you might as well figure out how to let it go. And if you can't just ohm it away in sweetness and light, then go ahead and yell it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, my anger is very specific because I was happy until, and I don't want to talk around it as my brother.
This was your trip to Rhode Island?
Yeah.
Okay, so family dynamics got triggered off with seeing, so just go ahead and get mad, Jane, let it go and be happy again. I mean,
well, the thing of it is that...
No, that is the thing of it that is.
If I get angry, if I get angry at my brother, he's going to come after me for a lot of money, which I won from him in the courts.
So just put a pillow on a chair.
Huh?
Just put a pillow on a chair and pretend it's your brother.
I'd like to take my brother and put him on a chair.
There's always an effect to a cause. So, don't be surprised if as you're transcending and transmuting and hanging out in the bliss and moving up into the absolute, that it's like that bucket of mud that we talked about last week, and you put the hose in and it cleans it out, but what happens when it starts cleaning out? Mud comes up and over. And then you're all, oh, I didn't know I was going to get dirty. You're already dirty. You're already dirty. You've already got this stuff. If it's coming up, let it come up and go out. That's all. So if you can move, if you can shift it energetically, and if you can realize this is just old stuff that's coming up, being triggered off from all of the wonderful things that are happening, that's great. If you can't, do whatever you need to get it out. If you have fear, just notice that this is old fear. Are you going to keep living with that fear? Are you going to let it run you into the ground? Or are you going to stand up to it, move through it, take it on? It's old anger. Are you going to be afraid of being angry? I know the women in the room were usually raised with this idea that you don't make sounds. You don't say anything. You don't yell. You don't get angry. So I, at an early age became very proficient at being loud. And it has served me well. Get loud, yell and scream. Just let it out. It's inside of you, so you want to get it out. It's coming up and out. Is that enough therapy for tonight?
Yeah, I think so. Humanistically speaking.
It is so true. Going through this and learning this, and it's that, well, I equate it as my emotional rucksack, and there's a little pack back there. Oh, there's some old socks. That emotional things do come back up. And I'm like, wait a minute, where did this come from? I don't know why I'm feeling this, but this. And instead of a month-long, half a day,
right,
deal with it, let it go, love it, go on and move on, and it just flows, and it's just. But things do come up. The mud does come up, and
sure,
it just washes
it's just
clean.
mud. It's not going to hurt you. Just mud. What?
I was just going to say that all aspects are a spirit.
Right? Spiritual mud.
All of it. And he's
Spiritual mud.
Spiritual mud treatments.
Any other questions on lesson 5 before we close? Tom?
To me, the whole thing is about having an attachment. The minute you have an attachment, you're back in the wheel of drama. You know, if you didn't put your energy into one person, like my wife has to love me, my brother has to love me, money has to come from here, not there, you wouldn't be angry. You know, it's that cultural thing that like, well, now we're married, you gotta love me thing, you know, or any version of that, where you have to get it at this one source.
That's why it's so important to realize that everything is coming from inside and not outside. And you're right, whenever we become focused on getting something from the outside, then it brings up a lot of expectations that sooner or later are not going to be realized because we didn't plant it, we didn't put it, we're robbing somebody else's garden, so to speak, and that's going to peter out eventually, unless we keep planting our own life. That's why being a taker doesn't work. If you're just in life to see what you can get from people, gimme, 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 it's going to deplete you instead of enrich you. The way to get filled up in life is to give it out. Like Jimmy Carter building a Habitat home when they told him he only had, weeks left to live. He said, well, I hope I can get this home finished. that fills you up to give it out. It's like if you just don't exhale. You take a deep breath. Don't let it out. It doesn't work. The best way to breathe, I've been told, is to breathe deeply, to let out as much air as you can, and then breathe in deeply and fill your lungs up. The worst way to breathe is
Except when you're in labor.
I was going to say.
That's a lot of people breathe that way. They just stop breathing. I get people in my office, breathe. So, take out what you're going to give. Put it in your hands. And what I know is that we give from our fullness. We give from our clarity. We give from our sense of self. We know that we plant our life, that we are full, filled to overflowing with all of the blessings of life that include money. Lots and lots and lots of money. And so we give from that fullness, and we know that that consciousness of fullness goes out into our life, is multiplied and comes back to us. Right here and right now, we really focus on the idea that we are precious. We are perfect spiritual beings. We deserve to experience this life fully. All of the colors, all of the tastes, all of the touches, all of the sights, they are all for us. And we get to experience that. And if money is our means of exchange, we get to have more than enough money to do whatever it is we choose to do. This life is a gift, and it was given completely and fully, and we accept it fully and completely. So we don't have to know how it's going to happen. We just set spiritual law in motion and know that God has ways of giving us money that we've never even dreamed of yet. We know that we deserve to be rich and blessed in this life. And as we let this money go, we know that spiritual law takes it, multiplies it, and returns it back to us. We are the creators of our world. We are the masters of our destiny. We determine our good. And so we open up wide to accept all that life has for us. I know that each one of us comes together this night to make this Center for Spiritual Living Asheville all that it was ever meant to be. It is a place of peace, a beacon of light, a tower of strength, and a fountain of wisdom that touches the lives of all who call it home. And so it is.
So it is.
Stop it.
Or the open house you were talking about?
Let's wait till after. Let's wait till after. Let's hold the energy. Hold the energy. Because we are creating. We are setting creative law in motion. There's no difference between every billionaire and us. There's no difference from everyone who has ever had their lives transformed and us. There is no difference because we are all one. So I claim for each and every one of us a life that is rich beyond measure, a life of health and happiness and wholeness, a life of love and joy and success. That is our divine birthright. That is ours now. I know that that blessing came with our gifts, filling up this room from the floor to the ceiling and all between the walls. I know that Spirit touches every one of us, blesses us, heals us, fills up this room, goes on out around the planet to wake people up to who we are, what's really going on in life. Always here, always now, blessing every one of us here tonight, everyone who's ever been here and everyone yet to come. And so it is. Thank you, I love you.
Thank you.